And here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is BWTM Sports. Don't forget, Round for Round Boxing, www.roundforroundboxing.com. This is the official channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is BWTM Sports. Don't forget, Round for Round Boxing, www.roundforround. This is the official channel for all things Round for Round Boxing. And also, Three Kings Boxing, www.threekingsboxing.com. Shout out to CB Sports TV. Salute to you too, brother. Okay, so the subject we're talking about tonight is Jennings versus Dimitrenko, or hashtag Jennings Dimitrenko, August 18th, Ocean Resort Casino, Atlantic City, New Jersey. This is the first big fight back for Bryant Jennings. To be honest, I've always thought he was a quality operator. Shout out to Bryant Jennings, my man. Bryant Jennings from Philly in the house. Hashtag vegan heavyweight. So, comes back against Alexander Dimitrenko. Straight off, Jennings at 6'3", world breaker. My brother, how you doing? Straight off the bat, Jennings 6'3", Dimitrenko 6'7". I asked myself, is this a strategic move? Because for me, I always like to see Bryant Jennings fighting guys bigger than himself, taller than himself. I like to see that because it's great practice for Bryant Jennings, because ultimately the giants of the heavyweight division, Deontay Wilder 6'7", Anthony Joshua 6'6", Tyson Fury 6'9". Those are the guys that basically Bryant Jennings, if he wants to become heavyweight champion of the world, and I actually believe he can become heavyweight champion of the world. I still believe that. And it's not because he does interviews on the channel or anything. I think he actually has what it takes to be heavyweight champion of the world. But here's my problem with Bryant Jennings. Jennings doesn't seem to let his hands go enough. And it's almost as if Jennings says, you can have this, and you can have this, and you can have this. I'm not quite getting paid enough tonight, so I'll just throw a couple of punches, and I'll show you 2-3 classy shots, and then I'll just go back and do what I normally do. This is almost if Jennings has got 2-3 other gears, but he's choosing not to show it. Against Dimitrenko, the one thing I saw in Dimitrenko's last fight, I always like to look for patterns in boxers. I always like to see if a boxer does the same thing repeatedly over and over again. In Dimitrenko's last fight, he seemed to have a problem with keeping his hands up after throwing a jab. He was making a criminal mistake every time he put out a jab. He was getting caught with the right hand over the top. He was getting caught anytime he was backed up. He was getting caught with the right hand over the top, or getting the left hook around the corner. I mean, for what I saw, the highlight reel, I didn't watch the whole fight. But he looked like the guy was out boxing Dimitrenko, but I didn't see the whole fight. I think he won by either majority or unanimous decision. But for me, this is a great fight for Bryant Jennings to come back on. It answers questions about Jennings being able to fight guys at 6'7", and be able to be. I believe he's big enough, and I believe he's strong enough, and I think he hits hard enough. I mean, this is a guy that was knocked out by. It's a guy that's been knocked out by Kubrat Pulev and Joseph Parker. And Bryant Jennings is almost a forgotten man of heavyweight boxing. A man, as far as I'm concerned, his 2 losses have been against 2 elite athletes, Vladimir Klitschko and then against Luis Ortiz. There is a question mark about that Luis Ortiz victory, simply because I think Bryant has mentioned it himself. Was Luis on or off substances? I think it was mentioned in our interview, kind of passing, whether he was still on the stuff or not. So I guess it's something that remains in Bryant's mind. But World Breaker Fighting. Shout out to my man, World Breaker Fighting, also the business manager, the guide for BWTM Sports. Great to see you in the room, brother. Bryant Jennings is being done a disservice in the rankings. how Bellew is ranked higher and in the top 5 is a mockery. I think you could look potentially at his promoter and how much power his promoter has. It's not really going to matter, is it? Because, I mean, Bellew is going to be going to cruiserweight, and that'll be in the receipt of Tony Bellew. So Bellew will be out of that cruiserweight, that heavyweight division ranking very, very soon, because Usyk will do many people a favor and will do show levels and will beat Tony Bellew, and that will be in the Tony Bellew, I think, in the heavyweight division. So we haven't looked much of that ranking. As for back to Bryant Jennings, I think for this fight, if he's to beat Dimitrenko, he's gonna have to outwork Dimitrenko. Dimitrenko spends a lot of time standing in front of an individual like a statue. I think Bryant Jennings has got to double up his jab. He's got to back Dimitrenko up. He's got to feint. I tell you what, Dimitrenko. If you remember when Evander Holyfield knocked out Buster Douglas, and people laugh at me when I say this, but I see Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings reminds me in little spots of Evander Holyfield in the sort of size, and there are little glimpses where Jennings will put together a 3-4 punch combination. He doesn't do it as often as Holyfield. He doesn't have the sort of work rate as Holyfield, or sort of intensity as Holyfield, or he doesn't have the same sort of recklessness as Holyfield. Bryant Jennings is one of the guys that I say is defensively responsible. Shout out to my man Lawrence Williams in the room. Bryant Jennings is the guy who pays a lot of attention to defense. One of the guys I like. So every time Bryant Jennings throws a punch, you'll say, well, before I throw this punch, am I going to get tagged with something? That's Bryant Jennings for you. He's Mr. Safety First. And it's boxing. It's about hit and not get hit. So if you hit Jennings with a good shot, it's like, yeah, you got me hit with a good shot because it is a good shot. You're not getting hit Jennings with a good shot because, he's being reckless. So in terms of this Dimitrenko fight, I'd like to see Jennings let his hands go. Dimitrenko will give him lots of openings. Like I said, the right hand over the top. The left hook round his guard. If Jennings can back Dimitrenko up and land hard and early, I think he can stop Dimitrenko in this fight. But the way he stops Dimitrenko is by putting his punches together consistently, putting his punches together with ferocity, putting his punches together in succession. So 1, 2, 3, hit with a good shot. Jennings' best punch for me is his right uppercut. He's got a beautiful uppercut when he lands that. So for me, I'd like to see Jennings, and if he's on the inside, get the uppercut, get the right uppercut, left hook, right hand combination off. If he's on the inside, I want to see Jennings double up the jab and using the second jab to blind Dimitrenko, right hand over the top, left hook combination. So I'll be doubling up the jab, the right hand, left hook combination, pushing Dimitrenko back against ropes. Dimitrenko is clumsy in his approach. I think Jennings should be too fast. He should be too light. He should be too agile, and should have too much for Dimitrenko. He really should. But I'd really like to see Jennings really, maybe I'm just being a bit old-fashioned, but I'd love to see Evander Holyfield take someone like Jennings under his wing and show him how to put them punches together. 1, 2, 3, 4, like Holyfield did. 1, 2, 3, 4, and away. 1, 2, 3, 4. I remember when, there are moments. Holyfield was one of my favorites. Was I think at the time my favorite heavyweight. In the era of Bo, Holyfield, Lewis, he was my favorite heavyweight. I remember him coming out against Burt Cooper, completely reckless against Cooper, got caught in the 3rd round. I think I'm going to do commentary on that fight again because it's such a great fight. And Holyfield putting 4-5 punch combinations together. I remember against George Foreman. Foreman tagged him with a shot in the 5th or 6th round, hurt Holyfield. Holyfield soaked it up, cross-arm defense, and then all of a sudden came out of the shell. Boom, 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 boom. 4-5 punch combination. And that sort of sequence of punches, not only class, but dynamic, explosive. If Jennings could do that as a heavyweight, I think that's the difference between turning him into a contender who might win a heavyweight championship of the world and a contender who will win the heavyweight championship of the world and will force more stoppages. Because, you see, I think Jennings is a bigger puncher than advertised, but he'll catch you with a shot, but he doesn't follow up on it. So, when you follow up on them shots Boom, boom. He catches you, stuns you. Then I want to see him fit. Boom, 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 boom. 3, 4, 5, 6 punches. You know, hurt a man and with a more aggressiveness. But as Uncle Bashir said once, you know, you can't put that sort of intensity into a guy. If a guy doesn't want to commit, if a guy hasn't got the word's not heart, but if it's not in his DNA to do that, and he's always going to be safety first, then that's what you may get from Bryant Jennings. But actually, I'm looking to see Jennings knock Dimitrenko out in this fight. I really am. Yeah, shout out to vegan heavyweight, by the way, because Bryant Jennings is known as a vegan. So shout out to him. You saw his fierce sparring with Derek Chisora, and I would love to have been able to speak to Bryant at the time when he was in the UK. I just couldn't get across to the gym in time. But shout out to you, Brian. Brian, if you listen, I know you're listening because I'll send you the video afterwards. But yeah, let's see what people are saying in the room. Lawrence Williams says, "All's good. All good, my friend. All good." Will Jennings be on round for round? See why not. BY Jennings fights with the same kind of rhythm as Michael Spinks, in my opinion. Yeah, he does, isn't he? He kind of fights like Michael Spinks. He does have that sort of thing, Spinks, about him. But one of the things about Bryant Jennings, which I think a lot of people don't give him credit for, is that his lack of amateur experience and what he's done as a pro, for me, has been phenomenal. You think of guys like Luis Ortiz, who's had 200, 300 plus amateur bouts. You fight Klitschko as a Olympic gold medalist. You know, unified heavyweight champion, almost dominated the heavyweight division. So I thought Jennings' fight against Klitschko was a good fight. I thought he did well, just experience at the time. And again, the Ortiz fight, again, there's always a huge question mark about Ortiz and what was going on there. And Jennings said it himself. Boxing rumors of a Joyce fight after Dimitrenko. You know, I see no point. What the hell has Bryant Jennings got business fighting Joe Joyce for? Who has Joe Joyce beat? I mean, I keep hearing this rubbish about Joe Joyce. He beat Lenroy Thomas. And everyone is jumping around like Lenroy Thomas was a world beater. Lenroy Thomas beat Dave Allen. Okay? And I don't get it. I don't understand. There's levels to this sport. And I'm not saying Joe Joyce isn't a good fighter. But I'm absolutely sick and tired about this Joe Joyce things. Like Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce has done nothing to for me to be considered a legit top 10 heavyweight. He beat Lenroy Thomas. So what? You know, he beat Lenroy Thomas. Let him fight somebody decent, you know, and then we can make, you know, guys like Bryant Jennings have earned their right. You know, they fight guys like Luis Ortiz and Klitschko. So for me, I don't want to hear nothing about no Joe Joyce. I don't want to hear nothing about Joe Joyce. It's normally people from the UK that talk about Joe Joyce, to be honest, because people in America really don't have that much interest in Joe Joyce at this point in time. Very much, I feel for American audience want to see what you can do first against somebody that they recognize, usually one of their own, and I don't think they've got much interest in Joe Joyce at this minute in time. How many times does Dimitrenko need to get KO'd before it's considered unsafe for him to box? Good question, says. Good question. Well, that's a good question. I think he needs to get knocked out. Cash, Ulay, Joyce versus Michael Hunter. Now, that's a good fight. That's a very good fight. I think there's a big fight coming up shortly with Martin Bakole. And I believe Martin Bakole is going to be fighting somebody who's either been a gold medalist or he's got some sort of Olympic pedigree. That's what I heard. If that's the case, then Joe Joyce, Bakole. Let Joe Joyce fight Bakole. That's a good fight. Let him fight him. Let Joe Joyce fight Daniel Dubois. Fight him. Let Joe Joyce fight. Let him fight somebody of some note. Good, Joe Joyce. I'd like to see Joe Joyce fight Gorman, to be honest. But you know, people might say Gorman might not be experienced enough, but I rate Gorman. I rate Gorman higher than I rate Joe Joyce personally. But there you go. Why can't Joyce fight Jennings? Why should Joyce fight Jennings? So what is the thinking behind Joyce? I don't even want to entertain a conversation. Joyce would beat Jennings now. Okay, fair enough. Fine. That's your opinion. Yeah, so anybody want to talk a bit more about this fight between Jennings and Dimitrenko? Does anyone want to talk about Dimitrenko and Jennings? That's the fight I want to talk about. I'm interested in talking about Bryant Jennings and Dimitrenko. They're the guys I want to talk about. I think you're trying to protect Jennings, in my opinion. Well, that's why you've got an opinion, my friend. Sounds ludicrous how I sitting in my studio along the sea front in along the coast in the UK can somehow protect Bryant Jennings. What, from Joe Joyce? So you're saying that Joe Joyce is better than Vladimir Klitschko and Luis Ortiz, really? Okay, and he fought also Mike Perez as well. Really? Yeah, sure. So let's talk something serious. Let's talk some serious stuff here. I mean, a win for Bryant Jennings, where does this put him in the heavyweight division? I mean, if he was to beat Dimitrenko, it's how he beats Dimitrenko as well. I mean, I think, I want to see how he deals with somebody that big. Yeah, it didn't look good against... But so you've got to understand the history between Jennings and Dimitrenko. Dimitrenko and Jennings are both from Philly. They're both Philly fighters. I don't think they even wanted that fight to happen. I think Dimitrenko and Jennings fought as amateurs, and Dimitrenko actually beat Jennings in the amateurs. So this is sort of a revenge match for Jennings. But they're two Philly fighters, and I don't think they wanted to fight. So that's why you saw the fight that you saw there against Jennings and Dimitrenko. They were just going for the motions. I don't think they wanted to fight. It was a crossroads fight, but I don't think that Jennings wanted to fight Dimitrenko. That's the inside on that situation. This isn't a competitive fight. That's why people talk about a potential Joyce versus Jennings fight. Well, Joyce versus Thomas was not a competitive fight. Joyce's last opponent wasn't a competitive fight either. So when Joyce is in a competitive fight, let's talk about it. Lenroy Thomas is not competitive. I'm sorry. If we're talking about a guy who fought in the Olympics against Lenroy Thomas, that's not competitive. So it's quite a contradiction. So yeah, I don't really want to talk about Joyce. I want to talk about Jennings because that's the fight we're talking about here. So yeah, I'm just saying that Joyce had a good amateur pedigree and Jennings doesn't really. And and what? Okay, you know what? I suggest all you guys that are so supportive of Joe Joyce, go and get yourselves a open a YouTube channel up and start supporting Joe Joyce. I mean, I understand Joe Joyce is a decent fighter, but he's fought nobody of note yet. He's fought nobody of note. So let Joe Joyce get in line and fight somebody decent, and then maybe we'll talk about Joe Joyce. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. If Jennings gets past Dimitrenko, it'll be interesting to see where he moves from there in the heavyweight rankings. I think I would like to see him fight Manuel Shah. I like to see him fight Manuel Shah. I think a fight I would like to see actually is Bryant Jennings against Dillian Whyte. I think that would be an excellent fight. Dillian Whyte, Bryant Jennings. Although I think Dillian Whyte should be having a world title shot now. I don't think he's going to get that world title shot. I think they're going to try and push Chisora in his face again. But if that fight didn't happen, I'd like to see Dillian Whyte against Bryant Jennings. I think that would be a great fight. I think there's some needle there already. I think it'd be great for Bryant Jennings to come to the UK and make that fight happen, or for Whyte to get himself to the States and make that fight happen. So Bryant Jennings against Dillian Whyte would be a great fight. I think it would be a really good fight. Yeah, Callum says, yeah, man, I think Jennings v. White is in December is a good chat. It is indeed. See, I think it's a great fight. I think it's a great fight. I think a fight against Dillian White would be a great fight. I tell you why that sells more is because Dillian White has actually fought some competition. He's fought Joseph Parker, he's fought Lucas Brown, he's fought Dave Allen. You know, he's fought and he's gone up the rankings, and he's fought decent guys. He's gone up. Nobody can doubt the Joseph Parker fight. A lot of guys thought White was going to get beat by Parker. I didn't think it was going to happen. So I think White versus Jennings would be a great fight if White doesn't get to fight for the world title. I personally think he needs to fight for the world title. So yeah, I like to see him fight for the world title. So yeah, I'm expecting Dimitrenko to win this fight. I think it's a great fight for Jennings to look good in. A nice knockout win here for Bryant Jennings. Letting his hands go is what I'd like to see for this fight. So that's it. That's Jennings versus Dimitrenko. Look forward to see how this fight pans out. Thanks for watching. We're out.